Done. We're
Good
live.
evening. I'm calling the October 4th, 2023 study session of the Ashland Parks and Recreation Commissioners meeting. And I want to welcome our staff, the other commissioners, and any public who has joined us. So welcome to all. And before we begin our meeting, I wanted to also welcome our new commissioner, Steph Steffinger. Welcome. I'm glad you're joining us. You've been here before, and welcome back. And with that, we'll proceed with the meeting.
Thanks.
First order of business is public forum, and I believe we have one participant. And so I'd like to, I believe it's Rebecca Kay. I want to welcome her. And Rebecca, you have 3 minutes.
I've just brought her into the room.
Okay. Start my video. How about now? Can everybody hear me now?
Hi. Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate briefly in your meeting tonight. I appreciate it very much. For those of you that I have not met yet, like Commissioner Adams, I am Rebecca Kay. I'm the president of Southern Oregon Aquatic Community. And I know the agenda tonight does not include talk about your study to reappropriate some CIP funds, but I want to speak briefly on asking all of you to keep the $2 million that was designated for the Daniel Meyer Pool rebuild, to keep that money there. And when the item does come up on your agenda next month, there will be several others of us that will probably like to address that issue as well. But briefly, I just want to go over some history for all of you. As you know, the Daniel Meyer Pool was built in 1983, so it's about 40 years old. And right now it is currently having a brand new pool liner installed. And we say thank you very, very much for that. We greatly appreciate it. And we understand that the warranty on the pool liner is 5 years. And with that in mind, it looks like, you know, the soonest that a pool could possibly be replaced would be after that 5-year time frame. But I'd like you to keep in mind that the 40-year-old heater, the 40-year-old pump, the 40-year-old electrical system, all of those mechanics are aging and not replaced. So 5 years might, you know, they might last another 5 years and they might not. We don't know. When the new pool plan is implemented, when it's appropriate to start talking about a new pool, the $2 million that's being held in CIP funds for a new pool will be very instrumental as seed money to help secure a bond for financing. And probably in the back of your minds right now, you're probably thinking, well, Medford's going to have a new aquatic center open up pretty soon, which is true. However, that is not really the best solution for Ashland residents to travel to Medford for their swimming needs. As I remember back in around 2021 or 2022, when some pools were just starting to reopen after COVID, our Ashland High School water polo team and our swim team couldn't find any water to go practice in because all the pools were operating, if they were open yet, they were operating under restricted hours. And I believe the water polo team finally found a place to practice at the Ashland Y, but only between 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., which is really late for high school kids to be out. The Daniel Meyer Pool serves all of Ashland residents, and it needs to be available to all of us on a year-round basis. It does provide swim lessons for the children in the summer when they're out of school. And swimming as as an exercise, it provides health benefits to all ages, families, seniors, kids, everything. So please keep in mind that having a community pool enhances the desirability and character of our town, and it contributes greatly towards keeping Ashland a great place to live and raise your family. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, park hours is next item, and I believe our interim director Eldridge will be taking that.
Okay, give me one moment here. Okay, can you see my slide and not my notes?
Right.
Okay, fantastic. So today we're going to be taking a first look at a proposed amendment to the Ashland Municipal Code establishing park hours in all city parks. Why would we consider instituting park hours? There's several reasons, but some of the top reasons here are listed. Over the past 5 to 10 years, parks have seen increased vandalism. We're seeing increased damage to public property, particularly restroom damage and playground toys. And we have increasing public safety concerns. Many of these incidents are occurring during nighttime hours, and in discussions with the city manager and with the police chief, there has been the real support for instituting an ordinance that will establish park hours, thereby allowing the Ashland Police Department, or APD, to help us decrease these incidents of vandalism and damage and increase public safety. So mandating hours of parks closure, it can potentially improve public safety, potentially reduce the financial and maintenance burdens that are associated with vandalism and damage. So there actually is an ordinance in existence right now that applies only to Lithia Park, and it calls these park hours curfew, and the existing code has the Lithia Park hours from 11:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. And what staff is proposing here is to basically amend that Ashland Municipal Code 1068380 to establish hours of parks closures in all city parks. And we're changing the times a little bit from 11:30 to 5:30, moving them from 12 a.m. midnight to 5 a.m. This is the crossed out language is the existing ordinance, and you can see the suggested language here. Probably should have had hours of parks closure in red. Sorry about that, as I'm looking at it here. But essentially, the ordinance would state that no person shall remain in any city park between the hours of 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. except authorized city personnel, or as authorized by the Ashland Parks and Recreation Director or designee, consistent with established parks rules and regulations. This language has been through legal a few times, and the language was very specifically chosen, particularly the word remain. The word remain is designed to ensure that people transiting through the park or moving through the park at night, not remaining there for long periods of time, are acceptable within the bounds of this ordinance. The the language about being authorized, allows room for things like events like a star party or some type of special event or any type of activity that might be authorized by APRC staff. So let me stop share and we can discuss, or I'd be happy to answer any questions. Just to be clear, if at the business meeting next week, commissioners approve this language needs to be publicly noticed and published because it's a change to the Ashland Municipal Code, and it would then go for a first and second reading by City Council and have to be approved by City Council.
Any questions from commissioners or comments? Yes, Commissioner Steffinger.
Thank you. Steph is fine. What will happen to bathrooms? Will they be open, or when will they be shut and when will they be opened?
So management of the bathrooms will not, it's not connected at all to this amendment, but I can tell you that currently we are working on installing deadbolts in all of the bathrooms in all city parks. We haven't completed them all, but we're close. And we do have a security company that is locking and unlocking the Japanese garden and the bathrooms at Garfield currently. We're looking at options to ensure that we have the capacity and the staff to lock bathrooms at night, clean them, lock them, and then reopen them again. But if we have the staff to do that, they're going to be locked way before midnight. We won't be having staff come at midnight and lock the bathrooms. It would probably happen around dusk or sometime in the summer as late as 9 or 10 p.m. and then open around 7 a.m. when our staff starts going to the parks.
Can I just clarify? And that is that we are not limiting bathroom hours. This ordinance does not limit them because we already have lesser hours for our bathrooms currently. They're all closed at midnight currently, and they haven't been opened yet at 5 in the morning. Is that not correct?
Well,
at least in theory.
All of our bathrooms are not being locked at night, to my knowledge. I'm not sure if Tara might know. I mean, we had automated locks, and many of them are malfunctioning, and I don't know what the hours are that they're supposed to lock. Or maybe Rachel, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I can just say that the bathrooms are, to my knowledge, all the bathrooms are being locked every night and opened every morning. Some are on automatic locks that are getting switched out to the deadbolts. But all of the bathrooms are open pretty much between like 7 and 8 in the morning at the earliest, and then they close anywhere between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. depending on how quickly our staff can get around to those areas. So that's what's happening now. So all of the bathrooms are being locked into some capacity at night and unlocked in the morning.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Well, I do have one comment, and I've raised this with staff already, and that is that when I look at the way the ordinance is currently written, it says no person shall remain in any city park as defined in AMC 10.68.010. And I've looked at that Ashland Municipal Code section. And when I read that, it's unclear to me whether whether parks are developed parks or whether they are all park land. And frankly, if I had to choose one or the other, I'd say it's all park land. So the question I have is whether, what's the intention? Because I I don't think it's clear with this language.
So the,
Whether the intention is just to be for our developed parks or whether it's for all parkland.
the intent is for it to apply to developed parks, to city parks, not to open space or to all parklands.
When I read the AMC 10.68.010, that's not how I read it. I mean, I think it could be read either way, but I think the preponderance of the information there would lead one to believe it's just it's for all parks, all park lands. So I'd like, and I tried to contact legal, but I didn't get any answer. So I'm hoping staff could do that, or because like I said, I'm just not getting a response.
Okay, we can follow up on that. Legal has looked at this a few times, but I can ask specifically about the definition of city park as defined in that section.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Because this will be coming back next week and for a vote. So it's a great time for any questions or concerns. Well, guess we'll move on to the next item. And that is alcohol use in parks. And I'm not sure who is which staff member is taking that.
It's me. It's Rachel. Let me just get set up here. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Rachel Dials. I'm the Deputy Director for Parks and Recreation. And tonight we're bringing back to you once again a proposal for allowance of alcohol in parks. And this has been brought to you a handful of times already. And we feel like we're getting closer. And basically what's happening tonight is we're not looking for a final decision tonight. This will be brought back next week to the Parks Commission meeting for a hopeful vote from the Parks Commission. So tonight we're just taking any other feedback you might have on the potential for the change to the ordinance language. So why are we considering allowance of alcohol in parks? We're supporting a Parks and Rec Commission goal by encouraging more events and more activity within our Ashland parks. We are enabling revenue generation that makes holding these events more economically feasible for the organizers. So, you know, by allowance of alcohol and alcohol sales, it brings in more revenue for sponsorships and to pay for you know, for bands and for entertainment to actually come to our parks. We have received over the past year or so feedback from the small business community, from the public and event organizers that alcohol service in parks is desired. And one of the things that we did here is during the business economic development roundtables that were held hosted by City Council, we heard people say, business owners say, the public say that these are the things they want allowed within parks. So that's why we're here. Let's see the next slide. What's not working? Sorry, I don't know. Oops, sorry about that. Let me fix this. 1 second. Why it's not letting me move my. Okay, the current situation. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulty this evening. The Ashland Municipal Code 10.68.090 does not allow any person to take any alcohol into any portion of a public park of the city with the exception of few exceptions such as the Kayak Guanajuato and the Oakmall Golf Course. So what we are proposing is to allow for alcohol in parks as authorized by the Ashland Parks and Recreation Director or designee, consistent with the established park rules. And here is the changes, the proposed changes to the AMC. And you can see in red, it says as authorized by Ashland Parks and Recreation Director or designee, consistent with the established rules and regulations. And then it talks about any violation of the section below. And then you'll see all of the crossed out language. And then here's just some clarification on what the proposed ordinance would allow. It would allow for only permitted events that physically separate alcohol service and sales to individuals that are 21 and over. So like a beer or wine garden, or holding an event in a space in a park where the entrance and exit can be controlled. So such as the Japanese garden. Right now, we will not be able, the way that we're moving forward, we're kind of moving forward in stages. So what we can't do right now is events such as weddings or parties of mixed ages, where we just kind of, where alcohol is just served. That structure presents a challenge with staffing right now, because it does require more staff time to coordinate and an increased complexity that we're just not ready for right now. So the broad ordinance language was created to allow for a change into the future. So with that, I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to bring up quickly here the draft rules for you to take a look at. And I will go through them.
Mind if I add something? real
Sure,
quick?
go ahead.
So in your packet, you were provided 3 different items. And the way staff organized this is there's the ordinance change, and then staff prepared what you're looking at right now, which is a rules for alcohol use in parks. That's a policy guidance paper that we can change at any time. And would be posted on the website. And then created an alcohol use application, which is a supplementary application that would have to go along with, if you're holding an event, you wanted to have a beer garden, you wanted to serve or sell alcohol in a cordoned off area, you need to fill out a special event permit, which is in your packet, fill out a OLC, you need an OLCC permit and this alcohol use permit. So that's sort of the process that someone would have to go through.
Thanks for adding that, Leslie. Other thing I'll say that we heard this morning at during the department head meeting was that the OLCC is behind a little bit. So we, on our end, will be encouraging those who are wanting to do events to get in touch with the OLCC as quickly as possible at the start of their planning of an event to ensure that they get everything they need. So in front of you right here on the screen are the draft rules for alcohol use in parks. And you've seen these before. We've made some adjustments based on comments and feedback from the commission that we've received from past meetings. I don't know if I want to read through all of them. I did hear, I want to bring up a couple of minor discussion items that Commissioner Lant brought up that I just want to make sure I addressed, and I think that they're reasonable. One of them was concern with number 11, which I'm going to scroll down, which is the hours for the permit will not be issued for event hours prior to 7 a.m. or later than 10 p.m. in conjunction with the established noise ordinance. So we kind of put that in there. We just kind of threw it in. But if the commission wanted to scale those hours back, we could talk about that. And then the second thing was at the very bottom, within number 15, to add like a checklist that ensures that the event organizer is moving through, has been approved for everything, including the special event application, the OLCC permit. So it's kind of like a checkoff sheet, so that we know that they've done everything that they're supposed to. I think the word was, maybe it's overkill, but I don't think it is actually. I think the more we can repeat things to people in different places, the better off and the more prepared our customers will be. So these are the rules and regulations, the draft. So tonight we're just seeking the feedback on any final tweaks that you see in the language, in the hopes that we can bring it back next week for a vote. And then a reminder that this is similar to the park hours ordinance, in that it has to be publicly noticed, go through city council with a first and second reading. So I don't know if you want me to leave this up on the screen and we can just chat, or if you want me to take it down. Yeah, I'll take it. Oh, Rick, you're on mute. Rick, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you could leave it, but you just have to scroll back and forth to the
That's
appropriate
fine.
spot.
That's fine.
Okay, so commissioners, comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Steffinger, take your mute off. You need to take your mute off. There you go.
Okay. I wanted to find out if this, it looks like this is written so that children wouldn't be in the area where the alcohol is served.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I wondered about is, initially, is this going to just be alcohol that's beer and wine, and will there be any mixed alcohol or hard alcohol?
Yeah. So what we've written into the plan is just beer, wine, and hard cider. And I'll give you an example of an event where, so for instance, next year, every May, we have the Ashland World Music Festival, or the Rogue World Music Festival. And we basically, if they wanted to decide to serve alcohol, they would have to have, we would work with them to come up with a location near the band shell that they could serve alcohol. It would have to be cordoned off. So, with, some type of, whatever, an area, and it would only basically, they would have to have alcohol monitors that would check IDs. So 21 and over would only be allowed in that cordoned off area, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Adams.
I'd love to hear a little more about the decision to confine alcohol service to beer or wine gardens. I'm sure that members of the public that have minors as part of their family and love going to places like the Brit, where they can get a glass of wine or a beer and come join the rest of their family to attend that event and enjoy it. Would love to hear a little more about our whys in confining. You hear a lot about people feeling like herded cattle or imprisoned drinkers when they're confined to what is often sort of like a less than prime location at an event or venue.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what I would say is that this is what based on what I've read within the OLCC rules and regulations, this is what we can do right now as far as moving it forward with the amount of staff that we have. At some point, I think in a year, we could probably reevaluate and move it forward in a different way or add another layer. But just kind of what we've read from other agencies like City of Medford and other places around the state, this is kind of how they're allowing alcohol within parks. So that's kind of the route that we have to go right now, or that we feel comfortable moving forward with.
Commissioner Bachman and then Commissioner Lewis. You're muted. You're still muted, Commissioner Bachman.
Okay, thank you. I'm still wondering who's going to do the control of the controlled areas. You mentioned alcohol monitors. Is that at the discretion of the event organizer, or are we going to require some sort of credential for that? I'm just curious about that.
It's all part of the OLCC application. So that's something that would be required as part of their plan that would go to OLCC.
I'll add something too in the supplementary application, Commissioner Bachman. It says detail your security plan below. If you're using private security company, provide the name of the company and describe the services they will provide. And in the policy, it states that the required security will be it'll be determined at the discretion of the director or designee. So for this first year, we're looking at it as sort of a pilot project where we'll have to take each event as at face value and determine what level, if they need to employ a private security company, how are they going to be determining like controlling that beer and wine garden, what will they be using for a barrier. So it's a little bit of a let's see what we get in this year and how it goes, and learn what we can from having a very controlled sort of situation, and get our experience from that and figure out how to take the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Lewis.
One of the exceptions to this rule was the community center when it was viable, because we allowed that. And how does that allowing alcohol for the community center fit into this this form of that we're proposing?
So when the community center comes back online, that'll be another conversation. But what we've done in the past with the community center is folks were still required to get liquor liability insurance for the community center, and they had to keep the alcohol service within the walls of the community center. So that's more ideal, like what I would want to go to in the parks, but we don't have a way to contain it within parks. So I think it's just a comfort level. We've just got to figure out what works and how things work, because I'm no expert. I don't claim to be an expert on OLCC rules, as you can tell by the 80 pages that were included in your packet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments, questions? Well, I'd like to circle back to the permitted hours. I am not comfortable with Ashland Parks and Recreation Commission stating that we'll allow alcohol at 7 o'clock in the morning. I think that it's laughable, and I think we'll be laughed at. I just don't think that's a good idea. I think it should be noon or 2 in the afternoon or something that people will see as reasonable. 7 a.m. is not reasonable. It fits with the noise ordinance, but that's not a reason to. That's not, to me, that's no reason to set a time that doesn't make sense.
From what I've seen in researching, I think 11 a.m. is a good start time, because some events start, earlier in the day. And so 11 a.m. to like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. But I can put something in based on the research that I've done.
I have a comment. I don't actually disagree with you, Commissioner Lunt, but the one thing that it does occur to me is that there are some very early sporting events, races, ultra running, things that start at 4 a.m., sometimes. And I'm not sure if that would be an obstacle to those types of early morning sporting events and what type of programming they might be interested in.
I think they'd be able to live with it. In fact, they might live longer with it.
What do other commissioners feel okay with that with those hours?
Commissioner Bachmann. After you unmute, thanks.
Yeah, I'm in general agreement with Commissioner Lunt. I think 7 a.m. And probably 10 at the earliest to meet Interim Director Eldridge's concern. Maybe it'd be okay as a starting time, but 7's way too early just for general use of a park. I'm thinking. So I like 11 to noon, and 10 might be a absolute earliest time in my thinking at this point.
Any other commissioners want to chime in? Commissioner Steffinger and then Commissioner Adams.
I would agree with the 11 o'clock start time. I think there's a safety issue with that too.
Commissioner Adams.
Before.
Yeah, I think that's fine. 11 o'clock is fine. I have worked the Pine to Palm in the med tent. They're at the finish line at in the wee early hours. The finishers are coming in few and far between, and sort of approved securitized alcohol distribution at the finish line, I don't think is anywhere on Hal's agenda for 5 o'clock in the morning at Pine to Palm. And so while I love that event, and as a Parks Commissioner, I may confess that I will look the other way if one of those people who's just run 100 miles goes to get a beer out of their car. I don't think we need to have sort of official supported alcohol sales in the parks in the early morning hours.
Commissioner Bachmann.
You're muted.
I didn't actually mean to have my hand up.
Okay, no worries. Okay, well, I think staff's gotten some feedback on that, probably sufficient. So let's move on. I did want to talk a little more about the that idea of having the checklist, which that's what I want to call as a checklist. And checklists, I think, are always useful for just about anything we're doing, because what is going on is this big long list, but it doesn't really get to the nitty gritty. Is this is what you, if the event is confirmed, when all the following have been received and approved by APRC staff within the required framework, time frames and stipulations fulfilled, and then you have a list of them. That to me, and it is redundant, but that list will be the most useful thing in the whole long list. It's like, hey, you just got to do these things and you're done. And I actually gave this list to staff, so it may not be. I think security is under the alcohol use permit, but if it's not, it may need to be added. But anyway, I think a comprehensive list of what you're doing, a checklist, is always in just about any in any industry. Coming from the medical field, checklists were critical to ensuring good practices, and I think it's the same here. So I really strongly advocate for having this list at the end, or maybe in a different format that just says a box with this is the checklist. I don't really, the formatting, I'm not really talking about it. I'm really talking about getting this in our rules.
Commissioner Lance, are you looking for that to be included in the packet for the business meeting next week?
Yeah, if unless there's objections from commissioners, yeah, that's what I think. It's I think it enhances the ability for the document to communicate.
I think it can be easily added. I did look at Commissioner Lance's suggestions prior to the meeting, and I think it could be added to the rules and guidelines sheet pretty easily. And then if we want to create a checklist based off of that for the public facing, as opposed to the rules and guidelines, we definitely should do that. And I guess I will say one more thing. The special event process that we have, at least on the park side, Parks and Recreation side, is very much dialed in, because the process that someone goes through, they're dealing with one staff member for most of the time. So that staff member is tracking the special event. They would be tracking the special event application. They would be tracking the alcohol use form. They would be tracking through the entire process. But I do agree. I think a checklist is important to make sure in case someone else has to step in.
Any other comments or questions on this particular issue? I'm gonna let me put it this way: if you object to a checklist, would you please comment now? Okay. Well, I think it's time to. Is there more to talk about on this issue? I think we got through it. So let's move on to the next issue, which is Parks, Trails, and Open Space Plan. Or actually, I'm going to change that. It's the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Map update.
Okay. One moment here. Okay, well, we'll change all the places that it says plan to map. What is the Parks, Trails, and Open Space map? It is part of the City of Ashland's comprehensive plan. Once Parks approves, once the commissioners approve of this map and the narrative, it needs to go through the Planning Commission, and then it needs to go through City Council in order to be replaced, in order to be updated within the City of Ashland's comprehensive plan. So this is sort of phase one of a fairly long process. Essentially, it's a guide for APRC land acquisition. It provides for a range of uses, including neighborhood parks, of course, potential sports fields, open spaces, trail connectivity, and riparian areas, as well as wildlife habitat and other ecological values. The plan was first drafted, or this map was first created in 1991, updated again in 2002, and had a light update in 2012. And May of 2022, the commission formed a subcommittee to look at the most recent update. What has changed since 1991? A whole lot, except for Rick. Rick might still be the same. I don't know. In 1991, believe it or not, Ashland had less parkland per capita than Roseburg, Medford, and Klamath Falls. Well, now it is one of the state's leaders in per capita parkland. And that for all intents and purposes, APRC has declared victory, again, for all intents and purposes, on its goal to have a neighborhood park located within a quarter mile of every home within the current city limits. So the the focus and the emphasis on this update for the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Plan is very different from what it was when it was first created in 1991, where it was looking to establish parcels for complete neighborhood parks. Now, with this updated map, lands that are identified for future purchase focus on things like natural areas, ecological values like water quality, stream, riparian area protection, and another very important one is trail connectivity, allowing access for the people of Ashland to move by foot or bike through town. And the trail connectivity can be achieved through multiple ways. It could be through outright purchase, but it could also be through donation, grants, or establishing easements on or getting rights to an easement through a property. So many ways to accomplish that goal. The rest of the slides are really just some of the text that's been taken from the narrative that's in your packet. And this can sometimes be a little difficult with Zoom, but to sort of summarize, the subcommittee met, oh gosh, Commissioner Lance, did we meet 4 times? Sounds 5 times. And we went through many iterations of the narrative, as well as, but particularly looking at the map very, very closely, and trying to integrate the trails master plan into that, trying to integrate all of the perspectives of the different trail users and different residents throughout. And in the end, the recommendations recommended to remove roughly 200 acres of property that had existed, that had been identified for purchase in the previous map, and then in some cases identifying other places to acquire for trail connectivity or ecological values that had not been on the map previously. So just to give you an example here, and we can look at the map too, but probably many of the commissioners are familiar with a lot of these. You know, the Billings property is currently outside of city limits, but if the urban boundary were to expand, the parks would want to identify an area of that could be used either for sports fields or for potentially for a park for that part of town. And there's other places as well. I would like to, I think I'll stop sharing and I'll have Tara project the actual map on the screen. And this may be tough for those of you on a small laptop. I know that Tara had offered to, we can print out ones for you this week. We've had those available throughout the week. So if you want to look at this as a very large printed out map, that is an option that's available to you still. But let's try this and see what we can do. I have a huge screen, so I can see this great, but I don't know about anyone else. I'm going to invite Commissioner Lant here to maybe point out some to highlight some areas for the commission.
Sure. Let's see. The first thing I want to say is this map is a draft, and but because there's a real time lapse in between providing the changes to GIS and when we actually get them back. So I just want to point out that on the right-hand side, where the narrative is, that narrative is not up to date. What's up to date is right in your packet, right below the map, is an up-to-date narrative that will ultimately replace what's there now and go into that space on the right side of the map. Okay, so highlights. Well, I actually I'll go back to what something Commissioner Eldridge said, which is about 100 acres of Billings Ranch was on the map. We had planned to take it out, but we have only one piece of property that we had identified for potential future ballparks. And Commissioner Adams, rightly so, pointed out that, and that there was a potential at Billings for that could be a ball field site. And that was determined to be a possibility. So now there are two potential sports fields, although the Billings Ranch also includes some repairing area, which has value even, whether or not it's, whether or not ball fields end up being there. But the point is that we do not, it's probably inconceivable in the foreseeable future that we would need two ballparks, but if you never know what's going to happen. We've had properties that were on our map that got developed and we never even had an opportunity to buy them. So this gives us more flexibility, not because we need two sites for ball fields, but because we're trying to ensure that we get at least one if in the future we determine that we need them. So that's one thing I'd like to point out. The other thing, a big piece of property was removed, and that's on the lower right, property labeled as M. And that's off of Croson Road. And it was placed there as thinking that maybe someday Oak Knoll Golf Course would be expanded to be an 18-hole course. And that's just was determined to be just too far in the future and too unlikely to happen. So that property was removed. Another big property, which is designated as F, that property was on the original open space plan, but it was developed really not that long afterwards. So we're just now getting it off the plan. There is no, it's all developed. There is no place for a park there. What else? B, up in the upper right on Hellman. There's a property B and C. Well, B in particular was placed there because along with part of the school grounds at Hellman School Grounds could have made ball fields there. But when Hellman School did their redevelopment, they developed that area, so it's no longer, the Hellman School area is no longer available. So there isn't enough room really for ball fields. And it was a little tight for it to begin with anyway. So that's why that was removed. So, basically, we removed a couple hundred acres in purple. And then during this process, we added back some properties, in particular 12, 13, 16, and 17 are the major additions. And those all are basically trail connectivity. So it isn't necessary that we'd have to buy the property. Easements would work just as well, but they're on the plan so that in the future people understand that that's what we were trying, that we recognize those as important trail connections and that we have them there as placeholders. Yes, we can declare victory on our neighborhood parks, but there is one park that if the Croman, this is 18, if on the lower right, if the Croman area on Mistletoe Road is ever developed, then it would make sense to have a neighborhood park there. So it's on our map and it's the only really piece of property on the map that is designated for neighborhood park. We don't really need it now, but it very possibly there may be a need in the future. So we did put it on or kept it. It was on the map. It was already on the plan and we left it on there. I think that's pretty much the high points that I see. Oh, I know. The last thing I want to say is it was mentioned that there was a light update in 2012, and that is true. And it was approved by the park commissioners, but it never was approved by city council. So it never was an official update. It never made it through the process. So this is the first update in 21 years. And the idea is to try to do them every 10 years. We made an effort 10 years ago, but it didn't, I'm not exactly even sure why. I wasn't on was I on the commission? I guess I was on the commission. I'm not sure exactly what bogged that down, but anyway, it never made it all the way through. So that's.
Can I add a couple more items, Commissioner Lance? As to the properties 12, 13, 16, and 17, I think Commissioner Lant is correct when he says that an easement would serve the purposes of trail connectivity. But if you notice, you can see that all those areas are a buffer zone on the wildland urban interface. And the community of Ashland, and we've been working very closely with the wildfire division. Those properties may provide multiple benefits in terms of fuels reduction and controlling that area, managing that area in the wildland urban interface. But multiple benefits, same thing, whether you're looking at 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, all these areas through the riparian corridor. We have recreational benefits, but ecological benefits as well, water quality benefits as well. So those are two examples where we're looking to realize multiple benefits that are not just exclusive to recreation.
Thank you for adding that.
My pleasure.
Well, that's the end of my spiel. I don't know if commissioners have questions or comments, but now would be a good time for them. My goodness. Well, next week, go ahead, Commissioner Lewis.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the comprehensive plan suggests there's updates about every decade. And I know I was on the Trails Master Plan, the very first one that created it. And then there's been an update. And I think way back, Rick spearheaded the very first one I was on with like Don Laws, who was a counselor, and I was pretty early in the Parks Commission at that point. But it's just really smart to do this housekeeping occasionally on all fronts. And so I want to thank everybody involved in updating this, because it's important that we stay timely on it.
I did want to add, thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I did want to add one thing I didn't mention, and that is that this is basically the first time that we are, actually the light update would have done that, but it didn't make it through the process. So this will be the first time that we will have officially proposing to remove properties from the plan. That hasn't happened before. But I think the history of that's kind of important. When this, as Director Eldridge said, when we first started this process, we had Lithia Park and really not much more in terms of parkland. And so what happened is a lot of property got put on the plan, and someone was thinking, well, we can't buy it all. We're not going to be able to. It's going to get developed. We're not going to be able to get this or that. And so we'll put more on there than what we really need. And that was the case. And plus, in addition to that, times change. I mean, I think there was a time when maybe people thought we expand the golf course. That's just not in the cards at this point. So things change. And so that's why this time we're removing around 200 acres from the plan. And that is, the reason for that is because our whole open space situation, parks and open space situation, has changed radically from what it was when some of these properties were first placed on the plan. Yes, Commissioner Steffinger.
Thank you. I'm assuming that there are some budget reasons for this as well. That we're looking at the things that are the most valuable to the city, and there are some things that we're letting go because they're not our first priorities.
For me personally, I can say that I've heard these kind of comments from the public and from city councilors. I don't, what I would also say is, I don't believe that we've removed anything from the plan that was, that is critical to a robust, strong park system.
Good to know.
Any other comments from commissioners? Again, we're going to be voting on this next week. So this is a great time to get your questions in. Oh, I think one little change that I would like to see staff add is for the Billings property. It just says sports fields, but it should say, in my opinion, it should say sports fields and riparian areas, because it has that too. So I just like to see that little addition to what you see in your packet. Okay, well, let's not belabor this. It looks like we're on to the next item. Thank you.
I'd like to add just a quick thank you to Leah Light, the GIS specialist that works for the city, who has gone through more really than the 9 drafts that we've seen, and gone back and forth with Tara and staff to support this process. So I wanted to make sure that we recognize and appreciate her time and effort.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, look ahead. Take it away, staff.
Okay, Tara, are you gonna throw that up, or
Throw that up, yes.
if you can, that'd be great. We're just gonna display this and let folks ask questions, I think. All right, so all of the items that we just went through today will come back to you next week. We also have some informational items that I think are really exciting. There's an intern with Terrain Architecture who's going to talk about the opportunity to potentially get salmon safe certified through our park system. We'll learn more about that, as well as Chris Chambers, Wildfire Division Chief, will come and talk about prescribed burning in Lithia Park, as well as large fuels management project at Siskiyou Mountain Park scheduled for this winter. In November, we're hoping to take a look at our existing advisory committees, subcommittees, and other such groups within APRC, and streamline them and figure out a sort of a way to keep them functional without putting too much of a burden on staff, similar to the transition that City Council went through last year. We'll also like to bring the Lithia Park Master Plan back first for a study session, and then hopefully back to the business meeting in November. Business meeting in November at the moment is we're hoping to bring you the Oak Knoll Golf Course Management Contract, which is still illegal. We'd like to give you an update on the efforts of APRC to really aggressively tackle deferred maintenance and facilities projects, and how we're moving forward differently with those this year. We'll give you a first quarter budget report for fiscal year 24. As well as, I think Mike Gardner from the Ashland Parks Foundation will come and give their annual report. December is traditionally a light meeting. We have an update on the East Main Park project slated for December, but that is not a ton of stuff on the agenda for that. We also have, there's a few subcommittees that are meeting within the next couple of weeks. I know Trails Trails Subcommittee is meeting October 10th from noon to 1:30. And then we've got, is there another? I think there's one other meeting. Or maybe
Leslie,
Japanese garden.
yeah, Leslie, it's not on there. I think I forgot to update it, but RDAC is meeting on October 19th at 4 p.m. at the Lithia Cabin.
Perfect. I thought it was RDAC. So, yeah, we're open to any corrections, comments, or suggestions for addition. We have a pretty aggressive schedules for this October and November, but and you know, we'd like to start extending that out a few more months here by next month.
So I would like to see us add a discussion on solar at East Main Park.
In December?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it might be more timely in that crowded November meeting, but I guess probably December is probably as quick as it can happen.
Okay.
Or maybe, you know what, let's put it on the study session for November and at least get it out there, and that will give that will be helpful, I think, for the designers to know where that's going or not going.
So would you like terrain architecture to be in that meeting to?
I don't think they need to be. I think we're just going to be talking conceptually about solar.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Should we
Commissioner
try to
Bachman.
Thank you. I just was going to say pretty much what you said. I think that that's a great time slot to start talking about the possibility of solar at East Main. And if we can have the architect, that's even better.
Commissioner Adams.
Should we try to have a subcommittee meeting sometime between now and when this comes back to the full commission? I don't think we've met since January. There was one meeting on the books, but it got canceled.
Commissioner Adams, the committee, the reason that was canceled is because we weren't able to get the quorum. And now if we could meet just as sort of a working group, you and I meeting, and that I would be more than willing to entertain that. But I think that's really more realistic than trying to get together a committee that has already voiced by their action or inaction that they're kind of done. So, but if you want to meet on that.
Yeah, maybe we should. I mean, it just seems like we're in a tricky place, right? My first commission meeting was in January. I was thrilled to be part of the vote to approve East Main Park, but we approved it with the stipulation that the subcommittee approve final plans, and then the subcommittee hasn't met for 10 months. And so to me, at least, I mean, I may not understand all of it, but I feel a pull every time I go by that weedy lot to see something happen in there. I'd love to see it moving forward.
I have a couple clarifications here. First of all, the East Main Park group is a working group. It's not a subcommittee. It's not beholden to public meeting laws, and it consisted of I think a couple of community members. It's an informal working group. So just to be clear on that. The other thing is that rest assured, the East Main project is moving ahead. It's not languishing in any way, shape, or form. Right now, we're moving forward with the lot line adjustments and the annexation of the land into the city of Ashland, and those are, you know, in the hands of Jackson County, and then with planning to move those lot lines. So this is part of the process that we knew was going to happen. Doesn't mean we can't have there can't be other discussions such as supplementary, putting solar in, but we are moving forward at the pace that government allows right now.
Right. Thanks for that clarification, Director Eldridge. So it seems like we're still sort of, to my mind, stuck with an administrative hurdle, which is that our current approval of the park is pending approval by the working group. And so it seems like we have two options. Either the working group needs to get together and approve the plan, or it needs to come back to the full commission where we could make a new motion as a commission group to approve the plan. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're exactly right. The plan, when we sort of realized that the working group had dissolved and was not likely to want to come together for another meeting, and Commissioner Lant and I discussed that the best thing to do would be to bring that plan back, and I think that would be about the 80% phase, which would be December, and that will be an opportunity for the commission to approve it.
Sounds great.
Anything else anyone wants to add related to the look ahead? Okay, moving on. Do we have any items from commissioners or staff at this time?
I just have a brief one, if I could be so bold as to take a few moments of all of your time to recognize what I thought was extraordinary work by a staff member. In September, on an evening bike ride, I noticed a tree down on Wonder Trail. Sent a note to Jason Minica, who's does work on our trails, at approximately 8 p.m. And got an email back a bare 14 hours later that it had been removed, and I can attest removed in exceptional fashion. I hope that Jason was asleep for 8 of those 14 hours and probably making his way up and down. It was not at the bottom of the trail with the chainsaw during another significant portion of that. I just thought it was absolutely extraordinary and was blown away. And so thank you for a moment of your time to recognize Jason's extraordinary work in that area.
I want to mention a couple of events that we have happening this week. We have both are happening on Friday. The first one is Friday morning, and it's the Ashland Walk and Bike Breakfast, and it's Go by Bike Month and Rogue Valley Transportation District hosting it at Railroad Park. So we hope to see you there. There'll be coffee and a light breakfast, and there'll be people on site if you want to do like a light tune up on your bike, they'll be there as well. I believe it's from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. this Friday, October 6th. And then also our wonderful partners at Rogue World Music are having this awesome event in Ashland on Friday night from 5 to 7 p.m. In the Railroad District. And it's called Gather Round the Railroad District. And it's basically, they're going to have 8 outdoor concerts at 5 venues, and it's a stroll. So I believe that means they're going to have concerts on people's porches. So if you walk around the Railroad District, there's going to be some fun stuff going on Friday evening from 5 to 7. And there's more information on that on our Facebook page.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, this brings us to the end of the meeting. So thank you to all the participants tonight. And the meeting is now officially adjourned. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.